Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful day, but I'd like you to ask me how I'm doing. Say, how you doing, Bill? How you doing, Bill? Well, let me tell you, our sound people did not show up today. So that was my first great anxious moment when I arrived here this morning, but the guys from the village stepped right up and pulled our equipment out of Veterans Hall, so we do have speakers, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me and the rest of the participants today. Thank you, Village. You guys are great. Second thing I'll mention is that if you have a program, you'll notice that it was the Reverend Paul Lent who was going to be with us this morning. However, Paul finds himself in the hospital with an apparent case of appendicitis. But our good friend Michael Smith is going to be here to do the invocation. So, with that, let us get underway. Yeah, you can give him an applause. He's all right. Good morning and welcome to the 2023 Southampton Village Veterans Day ceremony. On behalf of our Veteran Committee, Commander Bob Grisnick, Mayor Bill Manger, and Trustees Gina Aresta, Robin Brown, Roy Stevenson, and Lennon Zanetti, I thank you for taking the time to help us say thank you to our veterans for their service and sacrifice to America and the preservation of our liberty. I would like to thank the members of the Southampton High School Band and Chorus, the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and the members of the Southampton Fire Department, as well as the Civil Air Patrol. I noticed that our supervisor, Jay, is here with us this morning as well. Welcome. We thank you for being present this morning. And a big thank you to Thea Fry and the Southampton High School Patriot Club for the 12th time honoring all local veterans with a wonderful dinner 2 weeks ago at the high school. The kids did a fabulous job. We had some entertainment. It was very, very nice. Perhaps it's the best one, best attendance so far, and we love seeing that. Anyway, so Reverend Paul Lent was going to do the invocation and the benediction. I'll just mention Paul Lent is brand new to our community. He just was called to the First Presbyterian Church here in the village, and like I said, unfortunately, he is in the hospital. But with us is Michael Smith, former pastor of the Shinnecock Presbyterian Church. Please give a warm welcome to Michael Smith.
One Presbyterian substituting for another. As we gather, could we pause for just a moment of prayer? Let us pray. Gracious God, your Spirit hovered over the waters at the foundation of time. We ask that your Spirit would hover above us as we gather this day to honor and give thanks to those men and women who are serving and have served this country well. We ask you to be in our midst. Continue to bless us. Open our hearts and our minds that we might catch glimpses of who it is that we have been called to be and what it is that we have been called to do as would-be servants and followers of your Lord, your Son, our Lord and our Savior, Jesus the Christ, in whose name and for whose sake we do now humbly and faithfully pray. And together we say, Amen.
Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, please come forward. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning is going to be led off by Boy Scout Troop number 58 and Cub Scout Pack number 14. The Boy Scout troop leaders are Mark and Lynn Maddox, and the Cub Scout Pack leaders are Paul and Caitlin Donahue. These good folks, these young men and women are with us every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day, and many of them often help and assist in the putting out of our flags at the local cemeteries for both occasions. Turn around, guys. Let everybody see you. Go ahead. You're all looking mighty good. Ready? Sure. Take it away.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all.
They retire.
We'll go back. All right. Set back to where we were, boys. Back to 2 lines. Big line.
Teddy Turpin is a lifelong Southampton resident who graduated from Southampton High School in 1974. His 93-year-old father is an American veteran who served during the Korean War, and his son Jeremy is also an Army veteran. Detail, bring your units to attention and present arms for the singing of our national anthem.
I would like for you to sing the song with me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You all may be seated. That was beautiful, Teddy. That was really sweet, my friend. Really sweet. First, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very important announcement. As you may have heard on WLNG, the British are coming. A British Army veteran and a Royal Air Force veteran from our sister city, Southampton, England, will present wreaths in honor of our veterans. This is a first, and we ask and we implore in a very big way that you join us tomorrow right here in Agawam Park at 3:30 for a very special ceremony. We are hoping that many of you will come here to show your appreciation for this extraordinary gesture by our British allies. All are invited, and not to oversell the event, but you're going to love it. I believe the forecast calls for a little bit chillier weather, but dress appropriately and I think things will be fine. It is rather extraordinary that these gentlemen wish to come over. They happen to be participating in the Veterans Day Parade today in New York City. And they will be here tomorrow to honor our veterans. And we hope this is the first of many good partnerships to come. Secondly, flags in the cemetery. We are in need of a couple of volunteers who help put flags out and pick them up for both Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And that usually takes about 2 to 3 hours of your time total for both events. Also looking for someone to be Jim Saddam's first lieutenant. He is in charge of putting the flags out. We're looking for somebody to back him up in case he can't do it for some reason, and also to learn and to be a backup for him. So if you're interested in either, please see me after the ceremony. Thirdly, John Melio is a Vietnam veteran, and he also happens to be an artist, something that he is, and there's John right there. Raise your hand, John, please. He does terrific work, artwork, and he has found great relief for this PTSD that he has suffered from the Vietnam War through his art. And for the next several days, he will have an exhibition over at the Cultural Center across the street from noontime until 4 o'clock. So after this ceremony, if you join us in the Veterans Hall for some refreshments or not, please stop by and see his work and say hello to him. Thank him for his service to our country. I think you'll be well pleased and well amazed at the kind of work that he has done. On Veterans Day, speakers often try to describe a veteran and his or her service to our country. Well, I can describe a veteran to you, and his name is John Greenwood. A couple of years before the Revolutionary War, John had left his home in Boston to apprentice with a relative in another state. He had joined the Army shortly before the Battle of Bunker Hill, and unable to visit his parents in Boston, he was given a pass to visit an aunt some 15 miles outside of Boston. But John had a premonition that something was going to happen, and so he turned around and headed back to camp. At dawn, I heard the firing of great guns, he wrote in his memoirs of June 17th, 1775, which caused me to quicken my pace. I thought it was my duty to be there. I thought it was my duty to be there. Seems to me that John's statement is the echo of all of Americans' veterans throughout our 247 years. Duty called, and the answer was given, I'll be there. Is there more to the story, Bill? Yeah, there is. John Greenwood was 15 years old. In today's world, John would be a 9th grade student. He wasn't in school, however. He was a soldier who fought in the War of Independence, our independence. John fought and survived the war. His story is that of a patriot who gave his all for the freedom and independence that we enjoy today. His story was followed by the millions of men and women who signed up, wore the uniform, and so far preserved the freedom that had stirred the soul of young John Greenwood on that June day. It's interesting that I decided to talk about John this morning because I'll just mention briefly that today in America, in the year 2023, all of our services are falling short in recruitment. The only branch of the United States military that has met its quota this year is for the United States Marine Corps. No surprise there, right, Marty? Anyway, we are hopeful that turns around quickly, because clearly in today's world, we need a strong and complete military. We will now have some patriotic songs performed by the Southampton High School Choir under the direction of Jim Tartaglia. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, choir. Tom Gouldy was born in Southampton in a family of 4 children. His oldest brother, Bob, served 3 years in the Navy, and his older brother, Jim, served in the Army from 1965 to 1967 as an airborne MP. Tom also had a sister, Millicent. She and his brother, Bob, are deceased. Tom graduated from Southampton High School in 1970 and joined the Army later that year. He completed basic training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and then went on to military police training at Fort Gordon, Georgia. He volunteered to be a dog handler and trained for 7 weeks in Okinawa. He was sent to Vietnam in 1971, stationed first at Cam Ranh Bay, then at Nha Trang. Tom returned home in April of 1972. He attended Miami-Dade Community College and then the University of Florida, majoring in English. And after college, Tom started an electrical business, Thomas J. Gouldy Electric. He was married for 13 years and he has 2 children, Brendan and Nate, who both live here in Southampton. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Vietnam veteran Tom Gouldy.
Good morning. Approximately 2,700,000 servicemen and women served in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War. Every one of us has a different experience. I wish to share mine as well as that of a few others whose stories have left an impression on me. I also hope to explain why Vietnam vets often never talk about their service, as I wish to speak for those who have not spoken. I do not wish to portray myself as a hero, as I am humbled by those whom I've had the privilege to serve with and consider them to be the real heroes and have made far more sacrifices than I. To understand this experience, I believe one needs to go back a bit further. For me, I was born and grew up here in Southampton. We were the post-World War II baby boomers. As a young boy, I remember the 4th of July parades and the veterans who marched in these parades. They were vets from World War I, World War II, and Korea. There was so much pride and respect given to them. After all, they had defeated 2 very evil dictatorships with great sacrifice. We also watched so many movies that depicted their heroism. These veterans also had 2 major vibrant organizations, notably the VFW and the American Legion. This was a time of great pride and patriotism. John F. Kennedy was president and himself a veteran. We were on the way to the moon and the sky was no longer the limit. My oldest brother joined the Navy when I was 4 years old, and in 1965 my other brother was drafted in the Army and was sent to Germany and served as a paratrooper. I graduated from Southampton High School in 1970 and found myself in the U.S. Army less than 6 months later. I was sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana for basic training, then to Fort Gordon, Georgia for military police training. And despite my then fear of German shepherds, I volunteered to be a dog handler. To me, this seemed to be a great opportunity to work with and learn how to handle highly trained and disciplined dogs. I was accepted and sent to Okinawa for 6 more weeks of training. There, I saw how dangerous these dogs could be, as 2 of my friends were wounded, one having his hand torn apart. This was a poignant lesson in carelessness and overconfidence. Upon completion of Sentry Dog School, we were flown to Vietnam. We arrived very early one morning at Tan Son Nhut Air Base, Saigon. And after a few days, half of us went to Long Binh, and I went to Cam Ranh Bay with the other half. Half of my company would never make it home. For a 19-year-old, getting to Vietnam was a surreal experience. I remember looking everywhere, trying to get a sense of this place, so different from home. As was said in the Twilight Zone, you're about to enter another dimension. The reference to home was back in the world. There were no phones, no email, and letters took about a week each way. As I look at the pictures of us in Vietnam, one thing really stands out: how young we were. Vietnam is where we grew up and where we lost our innocence. There we were assigned new dogs. That is, new to us. My dog had been there for 3 years. His name was Fritz, and the tattoo in his left ear read 0M95, as all military dogs have this. I wasn't really impressed with him, and I had a sense he wasn't much impressed with me either. One night, he went after me, and I did what I was trained to do. And after that, he realized I'm in charge. One thing I also realized is this dog has survived 3 years here and had a bit of experience. In Vietnam, I didn't have that experience. I was spooked by a variety of sounds during the night that were unique in this war zone. But to Fritz, it was just routine. Besides Fritz, I carried an M16 and 180 rounds of ammo. He always gave me confidence. We were assigned to post to patrol, and it was obvious I had gotten there in monsoon season. We worked exclusively at night, and that's when it poured. Poured rain all night long, every night. I always thought that Vietnam was a very hot place, but now it's dreadfully wet and cold. We would be soaked to the skin. However, I hated it. It seemed worse for Fritz and the other dogs. What they really hated was water in their ears. This was my first monsoon season, but for Fritz, it was his third. Again, if I felt sorry for myself, I thought of all the guys out in the jungle who weren't able to change in the morning. Some of these men would be soaked for weeks. The rains also created mosquitoes. One man said they were so bad he would sleep in the mud. The rains went on for a long time. I can't remember how long, but as Forrest Gump would have said, and one night it just stopped. Fritz was a sentry dog. His value was the ability to sense a saboteur way before we might know or even get past us. This would never happen with a sentry dog. We would be assigned perimeters of the most sensitive areas where the enemy could do the most damage: ammo dumps, fuel storage facilities, and helicopter bases. Dogs in Vietnam were valued for many purposes. Some dogs sniffed out marijuana, which is a very hated job. Some dogs were trained to find booby traps, some for tracking, and what might have been the most dangerous job in Vietnam was to be a scout dog handler. The scout dog handler job was to be out in front of the company while patrolling in the jungle. This job was to detect enemy, which they frequently did, but not always quick enough. This led to the deaths of many dogs and handlers. One particular situation that stands out is where a company was pinned down and was being decimated by a sniper. Nobody knew where he was. A dog handler was flown in by helicopter and was able to alert his handler where the sniper was. He was in a tree. Just how the dog pointed at the tree, the handler was able to shoot him and he fell out of the tree. This is a demonstration of how effective the dog and handler are due to their ability to non-verbally communicate. We all had countdown calendars. A tour was 365 days. Everybody knew at any time just how many days they had left. My tour was from 71 to 72, and the war was winding down. We were all excited about going home early, but there was something that was bothering me that I had not thought of before. I would have to leave my best friend behind, the one I entrusted my life with. He and almost all the dogs would be left in Vietnam. The South Vietnamese soldiers who would take these dogs were completely unfamiliar with dogs. I remember a South Vietnamese soldier who had the best dog you could hope to have, one that was so eager to please. This dog knew how to run an obstacle course by himself, but he missed one obstacle. At the end, though the dog had thought he'd done a perfect job, the handler took the leash and yanked the buckle underneath his chin, and the dog yelped. And I tried to explain to the handler but there was a language barrier, that this would not work. And I took the dog and corrected him, so he did the course perfectly. I just hope he learned and that the dog would be treated properly. One of the last things I did in Vietnam was to volunteer to load dogs into shipping crates, for our dogs were being sent to Long Bin. I brought my dog out last. I put him in the crate, and as I watched the forklift pick up the crates, Fritz looked up at me as to say, "What's going on?" There was nothing I could do. I always felt I let him down, and I never saw him again. And to this day, I don't know what happened to him. Fritz was one of the half of the company who would never make it home, for he was military property. Coming home might have been as strange an experience as going there. I think so many of us have been through the bad times that good times would now prevail. Such was not always the case, as my friend Larry from Mississippi. He thought it would be a great surprise, since he was home early, to surprise his fiancée. But a friend gave him the news that she just had married someone else. Many others would find the women they loved were now gone, and this and the Dear John letters were enough to crush a young man's spirit. For me, I'd not told my parents that it was on my way home. The night before I left, there was a lot of enemy activity occurring. There were explosions everywhere. In the morning, as the plane lifted off, I could see the fires still burning the fuel tanks, and I knew they got in. What I didn't know was that 24 men were just killed on the base I had just left. My parents heard this on the news, not knowing that I had already left, and they would not know I was okay until I walked into the house unannounced. That was the first time my father ever hugged me. Other fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters would not be so fortunate with the loss of their son or daughter. There would be deep grief that would linger for the rest of their lives. Being home, I quickly realized it was not like the end of World War II. The paradigm had shifted dramatically, and the honor given to those older veterans would not be ours. We had been coming home piecemeal for about 8 years, and for me it was nearly the end of the war. This was a time when the anti-war sentiment had reached a crescendo. We knew we would not be welcome, as our buddies who had already gotten home wrote back to tell us to get out of our uniforms before we left the airport. Other things I noticed that none of us belonged to any of the veteran groups, like the VFW. I think we felt awkward for most Vietnam veterans, and things now were so different that we didn't relate. And there was such a pervasive sense of shame that would later be augmented by the fall of Saigon. Having watched that, all I could think of was all that sacrifice and the lives lost for nothing. As time went on, gradually it changed. I realized that most combat veterans, while we never talked to most people, sometimes shared our stories with one another, as we could relate to each other. One story that stands out was a Marine of the Korean War who told me the Chinese just kept coming, wave after wave, and their worst fear was to run out of ammunition. He said there were dead bodies as far as the eye could see, stacked on one another. Another friend of mine told me that as soon as a cache of ammo had been delivered, before they could put it in a foxhole, there was a direct hit. He looked around for his friend, only to find the boot with his foot still in it. Many GIs wore their dog tags in their boot laces. War is a very dirty business. Another vet I heard was, I was scared of being killed for the first 3 months. Then I just surrendered to the fact that I'm not going to get out of here alive, and I stopped being scared. And then it came a point I realized I only had 3 months left, and I thought I just might make it. Then I started getting scared again. Another vet said to me, "You've been there, so you know." And that's all he had to say, and I understood. In closing, I like to share a story written by a dog handler to his best friend, another dog handler who had been killed along with his dog. George, I remember you today as well as I did when I met you in Lackland Air Force Base. When we were on our way to Vietnam, I remember how we got off the plane in Hawaii with our dogs, took them out of the ramp, even though the government told us they had to stay on the plane. Everything for our dogs. All of us talked about dying in Vietnam, but I don't think any of us thought one of us would. We knew, unlike other soldiers, we at least had our dog with us, so we would never be alone. I was shocked when I heard you'd gotten killed during that attack in Saigon. I belong to an organization today that honors the Vietnam dog handlers. You're a member of that organization, and your name is on the honor roll. We talk about you all the time, laugh at some of the things we all did. We were so young. I know you have a son, and I know he would be very proud of you. I know that your dog handler friends are. You'll never be forgotten. Someday, I'll be in heaven with you, and we can once again walk our dogs. After being home for 51 years, I felt it was time to share my story. Thank you.
Well, that's a story of service in Vietnam. I'm not sure it could be described much better. That was total reality of that war and of that era. Tom, thank you very much, very, very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing that with all of us. The concert band from Southampton High School, under the direction of Michael Laricio, will perform a patriotic medley of You're a Grand Old Flag, The Stars and Stripes Forever, and the caissons go rolling along. Bill Manger is a lifelong resident of Southampton. He has an extensive background in both in government and in business. He served as a trustee in the 90s first, in the 90s. And being a glutton for punishment, he decided to come back and take on some more. So he came back as a trustee. He is now the village mayor. Please help me welcome Mayor Bill Manger.
Thank you very much, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, and fellow patriots, on this sacred occasion of Veterans Day, we gather not only to remember and honor the brave men and women who have served our great nation, but also to be inspired by their incredible acts of sacrifice and devotion. As a citizen who is not a veteran, I feel undeserving of the honor of addressing you. Of course, I will tell you proudly that my father served as a lieutenant in the Navy as a medical officer assigned to the Marines at Quantico. He has instilled in me a great sense of patriotism, and our men and women in uniform personify the essence of patriotism and the profound principle of acta non verba, which translates from the Latin as deeds, not words. Our servicemen and women demonstrate valor in the face of adversity and selflessness in the name of a cause larger than themselves. Their actions have spoken volumes, echoing the resounding call to duty, honor, and loyalty that define the essence of a true patriot. Our veterans face the crucible of service with unwavering commitment, and we owe them a profound debt of gratitude. G.K. Chesterton said, and I quote, "The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him." Now I would like to take this opportunity, if you will indulge me, to recognize a true patriot. It's a veteran who has actually just recently sold his house in the village of Southampton and will be leaving us, and that is Southampton's own Marty Gilmartin. And I would like to call Marty up here, as I would like to give him a proclamation from the village of Southampton. Whereas Martin, known as Marty, being a lifelong resident of our village, serving a distinguished 25-plus years as an active member of the Southampton Combined Veterans Organization, he attended our local schools and after graduating attended Mount St. Mary's College and then on to Fordham University to receive his Juris Doctorate. And whereas Marty, during his 48 years of practicing law, served in the U.S. Marine Corps, receiving the rank of retired lieutenant colonel, serving as a judge advocate and military judge. After leaving active duty, he went into private practice in May of 1975, remaining 21 years in the reserve. And whereas Marty has worked constantly for the betterment of the community, serving in many organizations, where he was a former exalted ruler of the Elks Club, president of the Rotary Club, an active member of the American Legion, served as an EMT in the Ambulance Corps, and served 21 years as a member of the Rogers Memorial Library Committee. And whereas Marty in 2014 joined the firm of Essex, Hefter, Angel, D'Italia, and Pasca LLP as of counsel until his retirement in 2018. Now therefore, on this 11th day of November 2023, we recognize Marty for his bravery and sacrifice for his country and his dedication to this community. And today we celebrate the person that you are, and we thank you for your service. I, Mayor William M. Manger Jr. of the Village of Southampton, do hereby proudly present this proclamation to Martin R. Gilmartin.
Hoorah! Thank you, Bill. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the warning.
Marty clearly lives up to that timeless motto, acta non verba, deeds, not words. May we value and rekindle the spirit of service and patriotism that binds us as a nation, understanding that it's through our actions that we can truly honor and uphold the principles that make this country great. Thank you very much. May God bless Southampton and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Manger, very much. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize those local veterans who have passed away over the past year. Mr. Ray Tereski, who served in the United States Navy. Tom Berenger, also in the United States Navy. Earl Flanagan served in the United States Air Force, and he was a World War II veteran. He flew in the China-Burma territory. That was a very risky business back then. It was very dangerous. Weather was very uncooperative at times. The terrain was difficult. It was not a great area to serve in. Not that any others were any better much, but that China-Burma stretch was a difficult area. Little known. We know so much more about the campaigns in Europe and certainly in the Far East in Japan, Okinawa, and that region. Not so much in the China-Burma conflict. Rod Pearson, United States Air Force, and Dr. Jay Hunt of the United States Air Force. Is there anybody else that I've missed, by the way? Anyone have a name? Nope. That's good. Can we take a moment of silence for these men? We will now have Peter Nicolich sing God Bless the USA.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to turn again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plain of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Sing along. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that life to me. Then I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend us still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Please be seated all. Just before benediction, this falls under the category of putting the guy on the spot. But joining us today here in the audience, Jay Schneiderman is with us. And I was just wondering, Jay, would you care to pop up? I know you're good on the cuff. This is Jay's last couple of months as supervisor of the town of Southampton. He's been there a long time, served as county legislator. Just thought I'd invite him up to say a couple of words.
Well, that is a surprise. Well, it's Veterans Day. What an important day. And I don't think I can add anything really to what Bill has said or what Tom has said. I mean, the stories from the Vietnam War that Tom shared, and the images that conjured up, and the feelings. And I'm the proud son of a veteran of World War II. My dad was a naval lieutenant, served again in the Korean conflict. And, my dad was so proud to serve. So proud to fight for this country. He told me once he would do it all again. He would do it all again. And, we are so blessed to have had so many who stood up to defend our freedoms so that we could be here today, like the song said. So it's just an honor. It's an honor to celebrate our veterans. We are just so blessed by so many people who have defended that right. And thank you, Bill, for giving me an opportunity to speak. And this is why I leave office at the end of the year. It's been a tremendous honor for me to be able to serve this great town and to be part of some of these ceremonies. So thank you.
Detail, please bring your unit to attention and uncover for the benediction by Michael Smith from the Presbyterian Church, Shinnecock Presbyterian Church.
We look at the world today and we hear of war and rumors of war, and we're mindful of our calling to be makers of peace. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." And as we were sharing today, I too am the son of a veteran. My father drove the China-Burma-India road, and that was an experience he never really shared with any of us. But I'm certain that he was proud to be a veteran. I was going to share St. Francis of Assisi's words with us, but I lost it on my cell phone. So we will dispense with that and just understand that we're all charged and called to be makers of peace. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his countenance to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord turn his face upon you and give you peace this day and all the days of our lives. Go in peace. Love, honor, and serve the Lord as you love, honor, and serve one another. And the shalom of God be with us all."
Lastly, everyone is invited to the Veterans Hall for refreshments. Please go across the street and enjoy some warm soups, and also stop by the Cultural Center for John's art show. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I know, really appreciate your coming out today. Thank you so very much. Enjoy this day, and do come tomorrow at 3:30. Please come tomorrow at 3:30. We really appreciate your presence in helping us to be a part of the ceremony, recognizing as our British allies recognize our veterans. God bless America, and may God bless our troubled world. Detail, dismiss your units.